So I made a new type of political compass, okay? And I want you to tell me what do you agree, do you disagree? What do you think of this compass, right? Now, normally I hate reductive diagrams because I just think it's like, how are you going to explain all of the complex factions and, all of these things that happen in politics? How the hell can you reduce this to a simple diagram? It doesn't make sense, right? But I also think that you can make something that plots it out and say, look, I'm not trying to reduce it. I'm just trying to make sense of things. I'm just trying to describe things. And this is how I see this. So we have the economic aspect, which is economic left and economic right. Economic left means that people are trying to establish a socialist mode of production. They're trying to organize the economy to serve public good rather than the profits of a wealthy few, as they would say. And on the right, we have the economic axis, which wants to basically either keep things as they are or make them worse. Either keep things as they are or make them worse. Then, in order to actually make sense of things, right? So the left and right aspect is purely economic. Now, in the original compass, they call it economic, but it doesn't actually make any sense, right? But the way I describe the economic axis here, it actually makes sense. And then there's the other axis, right, between hard and soft power. So this is not referring to military power versus media power. This is referring to whether or not you are dedicated to the establishment of power, basically. So on the top end, you're completely dedicated to the establishment of power. You don't care about morality. We don't care about anything, right? And you're going to put on a moral mask and say, oh no, I'm doing this because I care, because you want public support, because public support translates to power, right? So the top end is the people that are cynical, they're terrorists, they are fascists, they are people that are just willing to absolutely crush the opposition and win power no matter what, right? And then on the bottom, you have the soft end, right? These are people, they don't achieve anything. All they do is whine. They always feel like somebody is out to get them, and they always are just complaining and saying, I don't like this, I don't like that, right? But they never establish any power. All they do is serve to confuse the public and appeal to our moral sensibilities without achieving anything, right? So, here are historical figures who I have plotted out on this graph, okay? So let's go clockwise. On the top, we have Nietzsche, who believed in, power is kind of like the only thing, right? It's the... look, I haven't read Nietzsche, I'm going to admit it, but I understand his concept well enough because I have read about what he said. Anyway... It's like this raw will to power. It's like there's nothing to it substantively other than the will to power itself, right? And on the other end, I put Lao Tzu, who is a Chinese Taoist philosopher who believed that you should not try to exert your will on reality so much as just, allow things to be as they are and submit yourself, right? Submit yourself to the state of things and, just, do without doing, of course, taking action is part of the Taoist philosophy as well. But the context in which you take action is based on submitting yourself to these sort of conditions, right? Then on the right, we have Harry Truman, right? So Truman, he established the Truman Doctrine, right, in World War II, or after World War II. The Truman Doctrine is the doctrine that we've pretty much had since then. We no longer have a Soviet enemy, but we basically have replaced China and Russia. We replaced the role of the USSR with China and Russia in terms of thinking the same way that Truman thought. And Truman wanted to sort of make compromises and make deals. He didn't want to simply crush the Soviet Union like Hitler did. Hitler wanted to crush the Soviet Union. He also wanted to crush Europe. He also wanted to crush the capitalists, by the way. Now, that's the reason why America stepped in and why Britain stepped in to attack Hitler, because he started attacking Europe as well, right? But he's the hard right. He's not trying to make deals. He's trying to win power for Germany, pretty much, right? And then on the bottom end, we have Orwell. And this is the part of this chart that I think is more interesting, because in my view, the left, right, the fake left is actually the soft right. The fake left is the soft right. The people who spend most of their time talking about how the so-called left is not actually the left, right? These people are actually the right wing, and they constitute a form of reaction, and they claim that they're the true left, but they actually serve as a wedge to try to split people away from the real left. And the real left is socialist. The real left wants to establish socialism. Well, Orwell was not a fan of any existing socialism. He spent all of his time complaining about how they're not really socialist. He represents a reactionary right-wing force, but because he's so soft, I'm just critical of it. He's so soft, right? So he tricks you, because I'm soft, I'm actually on the left, right? He's tricking you. People say that being left-wing is about being soft, and it's about, always striving to be more idealistic. It's always about losing, pretty much. The left is about losing, right? And so I think that's a trick, right? Then on the left of the soft end, I put Robert Owen, who is an American utopian socialism, who actually established utopian communes and even laid out plans to establish such communes in Europe. And he pretty much said, look, we can just build socialism, right? But the ruling powers, they didn't want to. He made socialism. He made it happen to some extent. He made his communes. But he asked nicely, he said, look at how nice this is. Look at how efficient that this system is. Look at, socialism's great, isn't it? Like, don't you guys want to establish socialism? No, they don't. They don't want to establish socialism, right? So he's on the soft end of the left. I would put him there. Then on the hard end of the left, we have Trotsky, right? And Trotsky was very useful in the revolution. He was very useful to the Bolsheviks in their revolution, at least when he was. Sometimes he wasn't, right? And he wanted to basically bulldoze the world in order to establish socialism. He wanted to fight the capitalist countries as if the USSR could simply go into Europe and bulldoze all the governments and countries in order to establish socialism, right? So he's like the hard part of the left with that will to power, that strong will to power which he had, which is what made him useful during the Bolshevik Revolution, but also is why he was such a problem in many, many ways. Then we have Stalin in the middle, who, yes, he used power. Yes, he established power, but he did it on a real basis of trying to serve the people. And that is why he was so popular in Russia, why he is still popular in Russia today. Stalin represented a combination of having enough softness to care for the people and to work with people he disagreed with, and to do all this, yet having enough hardness to actually establish a successful Soviet government and to correctly analyze friends and enemies to figure out, who gets to stay and who is a problem, pretty much, right? So we need to be more like Stalin, right? Be more like Stalin, and be less like Trotsky, be less like Robert Owen. Find the middle ground. And then to put things in modern day, I have put some movements which are alive onto this chart. Right? So we have Joe Biden. He's on the center of the right. We have the Azov Battalion, right? They're for similar reason to Nazis. We have AOC, the do nothing, who is slightly less right wing than Joe Biden. She's a social democrat. She says she's on the left. She's called far left, but really she's the moderate part of the right wing. And she does absolutely nothing. She's just there as a talking head. So she's completely soft. She has no guts. And she's just there as controlled opposition, right? So she represents the soft part of the right. Then on the soft part of the left, we actually have Pope Francis, right? And, we don't have any Catholic theocratic states right now that Pope Francis is essentially providing guidance to, saying, hey, this is how you guys should run your government because you're Catholic and I'm literally the Pope, I'm speaking for the Catholic faith, right? And Pope Francis is critical of capitalism, right? He actually says things in support of Russia, and he wants peace. He wants peace. There's a lot of old people in the peace movement, actually, who kind of remind me of Pope Francis. They represent this left-wing force because they want peace, they want a socialist economy, but they simply aren't strong enough to fight to actually establish it, right? And then on the top left end, I put the Shining Path. And I put the Shining Path here. If you don't know, that is Peru. That's Chairman Gonzalo. These are these terrorist leftists in Peru who are fighting against neoliberalism. They're doing, lots and lots of terrorism, right? But what happens is that they've lost this kind of humanity and this moderation that they should have. And they end up overstepping and losing the support of the broad masses of people of Peru. So I agree, kind of, maybe not entirely, but kind of with what Shining Path is fighting for, but the way in which they're fighting has lost that softness and humanity and moderation, which is necessary, right? And that is exactly what Xi Jinping has. Xi Jinping, he is not Pope Francis because he's running the Chinese state. He's running the Chinese state. He knows what needs to be done. He knows what corruption needs to be purged. He's working, he's achieving things, but he's not a brutal, inhumane guy. He represents the people of China. He's fighting for the people of China. And so he has that softness and care for the people about him, just like Stalin. And then in the middle here, I actually put Putin. I think that Putin represents the sort of center, actually, of global politics because he really just cares about what's best for Russia. He doesn't care, I have to be anti-capitalist or pro-capitalist. No, that's not what really matters to him, right? And so he's not fundamentally progressive left-wing force, but he's also not reactionary or right-wing at all, not like Joe Biden, not like his enemies in the Azov Battalion. No, he just wants the best for Russia. And he may actually be less left-wing than the people of Russia, who have lived through the experience of the USSR, right? But Putin just tries to take what makes sense and tries to work with the conditions that he has to do the best that he can. So I think that Putin actually represents the most moderate and pragmatic force in politics today. All right. So that is my new political compass.